Hello, my name is Vanessa. Welcome to our virtual yoga class. We'll begin class in a seated position. You can sit cross-legged here, or you can sit on your ankles. Glutes on your heels, that is an option. And then we'll take a moment to check in here. I'd like to emphasize that we're taking a moment to gather our breath. Now, this implies that we're gathering our senses. We're starting to shift our attention into the body. And then throughout the class, we'll do our best to continuously shift our attention into the breath. It supports mental focus and it builds that bridge, the emotional body, the physical body. Let's inhale here, noticing your belly expand. And notice, and then release. Notice that soft release in the belly. Inhale again. Exhale. You can sigh out or perhaps just open mouth exhale. Your eyes can be opened or closed. If your eyes are open, focus on one point across the floor or the room. Keep that gaze steady. A steady gaze, a steady mind. Gather your breath, gather your senses, releasing all those to-do lists for the afternoon, evening, or whichever time of the day. Release those to-do lists. And then on that next breath, see if you can increase the length of your inhale and exhale a little longer than you're accustomed to. And then on the following inhale, let's take our hands right behind us. Your hands can grip your forearms, or if you prefer a reverse prayer with both palms touching is fine. So you're grabbing a range anywhere from your forearms to your elbows, your shoulders roll back. Sometimes our spine will collapse either forward or backwards. So see where that medium is, find that center. Inhale here, exhale, you can take your gaze down towards the floor. Noticing what's opening there for your shoulders, perhaps purposely bringing your shoulder blades a little bit closer together. And then release, hands on knees or thighs. Bring your shoulders up towards your ears, draw them down. Elbows are relaxed, hands are soft on knees or thighs. Purposely bring your shoulder blades closer together. One more round, lifting shoulders up towards your ears, drawing them down. Now we're gonna move the opposite direction, lifting our shoulders up and then rolling them forward. We don't tend to move in this motion, so it might feel a little different. Check in with your breath. Your breath is still steady, perhaps noticing a breath in the belly. One more round, shoulders up towards your ears, roll them forward. And now inhale, let's sweep our arms up, interlace your fingers, palms up. Stretch towards the left side of the room, hold. And then back to center. I'm keeping my gaze lowered slightly towards the floor. Gathering my breath here. I come back to center around my spine, tuck my chin towards my chest, palms pressed towards the front. And then release. Let's take our palms right beneath our shoulders, shift into our tabletop, checking in with our knees at their hips with distance apart. Tops of the feet are on the floor. We're going to inhale up, purposely lifting our tailbone, lifting our chin, opening and extending throughout the spine in your cow pose. Exhaling, tucking our chin towards our chest, pressing through our palms. top of the head parallel to the floor. Moving at your own pace. Inhale up and down into your cow and cat pose. Being purposeful, noticing the tops of the feet, fingertips, palm, the length of the spine. One more round, inhaling up. One more round, exhaling, rounding your spine. Come back to center. You're gonna look over your right shoulder. It's gonna open up the left side of the neck. And then very purposely drop your head. Let gravity pull down at your head. Look over your left shoulder. So as you're dropping your head, you're opening the neck and upper back. As you look over your shoulder, notice the side of your neck. Another. Look over that right shoulder, look over that left shoulder. Take your time in dropping your head. And the head will come back to a neutral position, one round, cat and cat. Inhaling, lifting tailbone, exhaling, rounding your spine. We're gonna open up a little bit more around the glutes and hips by lifting our right leg, bending our knee, and then stacking our hips to the right. Hold. You're strengthening throughout the lower back, opening around the glutes. Opening around that right hip. Now around your spine, chin and knee towards your chest. You're hovering here. And then drop your knee on the floor. Opposite side, lift your left leg, bend your knee, stack your hips. Round your spine, chin and knee towards your chest, hover. And then drop your knee on the floor. Inhale up, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. Shift down into a child's pose. You've gently opened up the torso, upper body. We haven't taken a moment of pause and rest though. So you can extend your arms out if that's one version of child's pose that most supports you, or if you prefer, and I'm demonstrating here, backs of the hands on the floor, forehead on the floor. My shoulders roll forward. Either expression of your child's pose works. Now we're going to be here a few breaths, being purposeful and arriving to ourselves. And you can use your breath, invite an intentional breath to arrive to yourself. Feel free to lengthen that inhale a little longer than you're accustomed to. You can always exhale side out. Our breath is building that bridge physically and mentally, emotionally. And we have to remind ourselves that all the time. That's why I'm always emphasizing that in my class. Inhale, exhale, side out. You can also visualize inhaling, receiving anything that supports you, exhaling, releasing anything that does not support you. One of the benefits of yoga is that sense of renewal in the body towards the end of class. And that renewal is because you're letting go and you're receiving. You're working within those dynamics and letting that express in your strength, your flexibility, your balance. That's part of our holistic yoga practice. Inhaling, receiving what supports you. Exhaling, releasing what doesn't. For the next 3 breath cycles, do your very best to be aware of the inhale and exhale. Shift your attention there. Arrive to the mat, arrive to your body, arrive to your breath and your experience. At any time, inhaling, exhaling, sighing out. Another breath here in your child's pose. And then release your child's pose. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. And then lift up into your downward facing dog, pressing through your palms, chest moves towards your thighs. Hips and heels are lifted. Visualize that breath from your fingertips down onto your toes. Deep belly breath here. We're going to shift our feet back or our hands forward to support us in our plank pose. Our hands are still beneath our shoulders. We're lifting our core up towards the ceiling. Release down towards the floor. Inhale up, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Press your palms. Deep belly breath. Breathe into your hamstrings. Plank pose. Release down towards the floor. Inhale up. Exhale, downward facing dog. Generous breath here. We're going to move 3 more rounds through that vinyasa. Plank pose now. Ideally exhaling, releasing down towards the floor, and then inhaling up into your upward facing dog. Find that extension in the spine. And then lift up, downward facing dog. Inhale, exhale. Breathing to your hamstrings, breathing through that the length of your spine. Plank pose. Noticing that core strength, release down towards the floor, elbows close to your torso. Inhale up, upward facing dog. Exhale, down dog. Writing a generous breath here. Your body is active. You're creating some more heat in the body. Plank pose, release down towards the floor. Inhale up. Tops of the feet on the floor. You're pressing through your palms, shoulders away from your ears. Curl your toes, downward facing dog. Generous breath. Inhale, exhale. We're going to lift our right leg, bend our knees, stack our hips, and now right knee towards that right elbow. Hover, core is active. Lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Generous breath. Inhale, lift your left leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Left knee towards that left elbow, hover. And lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor, knees on the floor, and then step down into your child's pose. 3 to 5 breaths in your child's pose, inviting some intentional breaths. You're arriving to the mat, to your body, to your breath, to your experience. Remind yourself of your full breath. One more breath cycle here. And now release your child's pose. Lift back up into that downward facing dog. We're going to take our gaze right between our hands, walk or jump up to that forward fold. Now plant that left hand onto the floor. You can also rest that hand on your shin or thigh. You're going to lift your right arm up towards the ceiling. Lengthen that right leg to intensify a stretch there around the hips, glutes, and hamstrings. Hamstrings always need extra support. Breathe into your hamstring. Keep a generous bend to that left knee. Lengthen that arm up towards the ceiling and let it be active, not passive. And then opposite side, right hand on the floor. You can rest it on your shin or thigh. Lift your left arm up towards the ceiling. Take a comfortable breath here.
Generous bend to your right knee. Apply some gentle pressure to your left heel. Intensify that stretch. Hips, glutes, hamstrings. Release your hand on the floor. We're going to sweep our arms up overhead.
Lifting up to standing. Hands either in front of your chest, or you can take your hands to frame your hips. Inhale here. Exhale. Second cycle of breath. Inhale. Noticing your toes, your heels, the length of your spine. Third breath cycle. Spine long, shoulders are drawn down. Release your hands. And then shift into our warrior one, taking our left foot forward, and then taking our right leg back. Our right foot is in a diagonal. Our hips are squared towards the front the best that we can. Our knee, left knee is at a 90-degree angle. Now, there's two approaches here. If you prefer to activate your core, keep a nice long spine, keep your gaze straight ahead. If you want an opening in the abdomen and a release in the lower back and throughout the spine, gently lift your gaze up towards the ceiling. Don't lose the bend to that left knee, and then lift your arms up. So either taking your gaze up, arch your spine, little sense of optimism there, or hands lifted, tucking in your core, spine long, gaze straight ahead. Focus and determination. Either expression works. And that's one of our goals in yoga. Just noticing those subtle ways we move our bodies creates such a different inner experience. Open yourself up to those subtleties. Inhale. Exhale, hold. Your legs are these scissors attempting to close. Your quads should be active, glutes as well. Hips have to open up here. Breathe into your heels to your fingertips, and now release your hands. Cup those forearms with your hands or elbows. You can come into reverse prayer. Hold. Either gaze lifted or gaze straight ahead. Inhale, exhale. Start to lengthen that left knee. You can still allow a little bend to that knee. Drop your chest so it's parallel to the floor. Breathe into your hips here. Breathe into your shoulders. Inhale here. And then drop both hands. You're going to pivot that right foot. So now you're in a low lunge. Plant your right hand directly beneath your right shoulder. Lift your left arm up towards the ceiling. You have the option of releasing that right knee onto the floor. You're pressing through that palm, lifting your left arm. If your leg is lifted, full body strength. Invite a generous breath. And then release your hand. We're going to step up into a downward facing dog. If you prefer Vinyasa, plant pose down towards the floor, inhaling up. Go ahead and take that Vinyasa. Otherwise, we're in a downward facing dog. Breathing into our palms, separating our shoulder blades. Breathing into our hamstrings. Take your gaze between your hands. Walk or jump up to that forward fold. Let's take our hands to our shins. Inhale halfway up. Exhale, release. You can either roll up slowly or sweep your arms up overhead. Make this your practice. Hands in front of your chest or hands framing your hips. Inhale. And exhale. We're going to prepare now for our warrior one. Opposite side, our right foot steps forward, left leg steps back. Our left foot is in a diagonal. 90-degree bend to that knee. Decide if you prefer to keep your gaze up towards the ceiling, a sense of optimism, or perhaps determination is what supports you right now. Keep your gaze focused and steady, straight ahead, tucking in your core, spine long. So there's a difference here in the position of the spine and the engagement of the core. So notice those differences. Glutes and quads are active, hips are opening, lots of strength throughout the lower body. Core strength here. And generate some energy. Breathe into your arms as well. Up to your fingertips, down to your heels and toes. Hold. And now release your hands. Cup your forearms with your hands or elbows. Reverse prayer is always an option as well. Make sure you still have that bend to that knee. We're just holding here a breath. And then we start to lengthen that right knee. Drop our chest so it's parallel to the floor. Sink into that right hip. Breathe into your hips. And now drop both hands to the floor. I'm going to pivot that left foot. Now you're in a low lunge. Shift that left hand. Make sure it's beneath your shoulders, not too forward or behind you. Hands, left hand right beneath your shoulder. Lift that right arm up towards the ceiling. Lift that right hip up too towards the ceiling by applying some pressure on that right heel. You can always drop that left knee on the floor. Hold. I'm purposely extending my arm up. Inhale. Exhale. Release. Step back, downward facing dog, or take your vinyasa. If you need that more active class, invite that extra vinyasa. We're in downward facing dog. We eventually meet there. Lift our left leg, bend our knees, stack our hips. Left knee now towards that left elbow. We hover. And now lift your leg, bend your knee, stack your hips. And release your foot back down towards the floor. Lift your right leg, bend your knee, stack your hips. Right knee now towards that right elbow. Lift your leg, bend your knees, stack your hips. And then release your foot back down towards the floor. Shift down into a child's pose. Forehead on the floor. Take 3 to 5 breaths, arriving to your breath. Continuously throughout the class, we refocus back with the breath. Two intentional breath cycles here. Inhale, exhale. After that breath cycle, release your hands. You're going to release the child's pose. We're shifting our hands forward, lifting up back into our downward facing dog. Take our gaze right between our hands. Walk or jump up to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, release. Your choice how you come up to standing. Make it intentional. There's always these opportunities in your practice where you can bring yourself, make any modifications and adjustments that makes this more your practice. You want to discern what is most supportive for you. So we'll go ahead and practice on some balance. We're going to lift our both arms up, interlace your fingers, experience that two-legged balance, 2 feet on the floor. We're lifting your heels though, and then you can decide whether to lift those heels as high as you can or just midway. Now keep your gaze steady and then watch your breath. We're staying here for quite a few breath cycles. There's a lot of intensity here and strength and balance. Keeping an even breath and even gaze. I want to notice that paradox, that tension of stillness, and a lot of movement. Inhale here.
Exhale, release your hands. Paddle your feet back and forth. Now prepare for tree pose, left foot on your ankle or left heel. Either remaining here, testing that balance, slowly shifting that foot higher towards your shin, either remaining there. You can always take your hands to shift your foot higher towards your thigh. Find a steady point to focus on. There's different positions with your arms, your hands. Find that position that most suits you right now. I'm gonna inhale, keep your gaze steady, shoulders are drawn down, core is active, glutes are supporting you. Ground through that right foot. Always feel free to step in or out of pose. Notice how your breath changes in that pose. My goodness. Inhale here. Exhale. Release your foot. Pedal your feet back and forth. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, bend your knees, fold down, forward fold. We're gonna take our hands to our shins. 3 rounds, inhale, halfway up. Shoulders are away from our ears. Neck soft and relax as you fold. Thinking that breath, inhaling halfway up. Exhaling, releasing. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, releasing. Your choice how you come up to standing. Make it intentional. The intention you're inviting here will also spill over in that intention of these balance poses. Hands in front of your heart center. We inhale here and exhale. Release your hands. 2-legged balance. We lift both arms up, palms up towards the ceiling. Lift your heels halfway or all the way up and hold. Noticing that paradox. Movement and stillness. Release your feet. Release your hands. Pedal your feet. And now shift towards the other position. This time we take our right heel, rest it against our ankle. Lift your foot up towards your shin or towards your thigh. Shoulders are relaxed. Inhale here. Exhale. Find different positions here with your hands. Invite that stillness. Intentional breath here. Inhale. Exhale. Release your foot, paddle your feet back and forth. Release your hands, sun salutation, arms lift. Exhale, bend your knees, fold down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, release, step back into your plank pose. Release down towards the floor. Inhale up, upward facing dog. We lift up into our downward facing dog. Lift our right leg, bend our knees, stack our hips. Right knee towards that right elbow, hover. Lift your leg, bend your knee, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Invite your generous breath here. We lift our left leg, bend our knees, stack our hips. Left knee now towards our left elbow, hover. Lift your leg, bend your knee, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Shift into plank pose, and now release your knees on the floor. Drop your belly onto the floor. 5 rounds. Interlace your fingers behind you, other palms touching or not, or you can just shoot your fingertips behind. Inhale, lift your chest. Feet can lift off as well, and then release. Purposely bring your shoulder blades closer together. Find that lift with your breath. Move into 5 rounds. When you approach that 5th round, stay there an extra cycle of breath. And then release. Drop a cheek on the floor. Roll your shoulders forward. Soften the body. Your body is relaxed, but your mind is still focused and attentive. Notice and check in with the breath. See if we can continuously do that for about 3 breaths. Invite another breath here. Start to release the pose. And then 1 more round. Interlace your fingers. Inhale, lift up. 5 rounds, exhaling, releasing. Use that inhale to support you. Engage your glutes. Find that lift and that strength. On that 5th round, remain there, an extra breath. And then opposite cheek on the floor, drop the hands, relax the shoulders. Find a breath that supports you here. Inhale, exhale. And then 1 more breath here. Inhale, exhale. You'll start to shift out of this pose, hands framing your chest, upward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, step back into your tabletop, hands beneath your shoulders, knees, hips width distance apart. Press that left palm onto the floor, lift your right arm up, and then release your shoulder right onto the mat. Lift your left arm up towards the ceiling, or rest your hand on your lower back. Release your hand. Inhale up, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. Press that right hand onto the floor, lift your left arm up towards the ceiling. Release your shoulder onto the mat, needle pose. Lift your right arm up towards the ceiling, or rest that hand on your lower back. Inhale. Exhale. Release your hand onto the floor and inhale up, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. And then start to release the pose. We'll go ahead and shift into our cross-legged position. Lengthening our spine. Hands on our knees, shoulders drawn down. Eyes opened or closed. Find a point on the floor to focus on. Or eyes closed for more internal experience. And then we'll invite a little mini meditation here. 5 breaths or so. You don't necessarily have to count the breath. Generous breath. Exhale. If your eyes are closed, you can open your eyes.
Bring your shoulders up towards your ears and then drop them down. Release your chin towards your chest. Roll your head from one shoulder to the next. If you prefer to continue working on meditation, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, focus on both sides of the neck here. Don't forget your breath, deep belly breath. Three breath cycles here, inhaling and exhaling. If your eyes are closed, you can open your eyes. We'll start to shift, bringing both soles of the feet together. Remaining quite a few breaths here. Release down and towards the floor, so your belly is shifting towards the floor. Hold here. Notice where that boundary is. Breathe into that boundary. Noticing that you can always shift just in a subtle way to deepen your stretch. Or you can also move in a way that's much more intense for that flexibility. So you know your body. Practice that body awareness to see where you can push yourself on that boundary. It can be the slightest little adjustments, or it can be much more pronounced. Drop the belly towards the floor. Three more deep belly breaths here. release. We're going to take our legs out, lengthen your spine, shift towards the right, lead through your chest and heart and fold, either relaxing that left foot or flexing that left foot. So eventually we're going to fold down the middle. So think about that in advance as you're folding over here. Notice if there's any tension around the belly. After a breath here, release. Shift towards the right, belly and chest lead. Spine is long, either flex that right foot or keep it soft. Notice your boundary. Release. Come back to center, inch your hands forward, little bend to your knees, fold. Breathe into the backs of your legs. Release. We're going to go ahead and shift and prepare to lay down. Before we lay down, drop your elbows onto the mat. And then you're going to imagine as if you're watching TV here. Elbows on the floor. Drop your head all the way back. Open up your throat. Lift your abdomen up towards the ceiling. Your shoulders are cradling your neck. You're purposely lifting your abdomen up towards the ceiling. Palms are on the mat. And then release. Back of the head on the floor. Inhale here. Option open mouth exhale or exhale side out. Bring both soles of the feet together. Knees are bent. Palms face up towards the ceiling, or hands can rest on your belly and chest. That's helpful to see the rising and fall of your breath. Or backs of the hands can release on the floor, lifted, surrounding your head. Remind yourself of what your deep, full belly breath is.
We're going to invite 2 more breaths here. Inhaling, exhaling. And then start to release. Bend your right knee, lengthen that right leg up towards the ceiling. Rotate your ankle. We did a lot of balancing here on our feet. We want to pay attention to our toes, our heels, balls of our feet, arches of our feet. We tend to not pay attention here. So take that rotation here. And after a few moments there, you can focus a little bit more on hamstrings, hips, and glutes. You can drop your leg towards the left or towards the right. Either keeping a nice sway here or holding. And then after a moment here, slowly release your heel back down towards the floor. Opposite side, bend your left knee, lift your left leg up towards the ceiling, interlace your fingers right behind your knee or your thigh, rotate your ankle clockwise, counterclockwise. And then after a few moments there, you can focus on hips, glutes, hamstrings. You can drop your leg towards the right or towards the left, keeping a sway or holding a position. And then after a breath here, release your heels slowly back down towards the floor. We're going to bend both knees, grab our knees with our hands, rock to the left and rock to the right. Massage around the tailbone, lower back. And then start to grab your feet with your hands, lengthen one leg or both legs more than the other. You can bend one knee more generously, extend both legs, bring them close together or apart. You want to get that final stretch in the heels and toes, down the calves and hamstrings, hips, lower back. And then after a few moments there, start to release your feet onto the floor. And then we'll prepare for our final resting pose, our Shavasana. This is a pose of non-doing, of releasing, letting go, and integrating your practice. The only thing to do here is to be purposeful in softening the body. So I will guide you in meditation Body scan here.
Forehead and jaw soften. Neck and shoulders. Down the length of the arms to the wrists to the fingertips. Soften the upper back, mid back, lower back, down to the hips, behind the knees, to the ankles and toes. Invite a generous breath here. Exhale, side out. And from here, allow your breath to go back to its natural rhythm, or you can practice some purposeful deep breaths. Just observe sounds and thoughts around you without judgment. Just notice. We'll start to shift our attention back to our breath. Inviting a generous and leisurely inhale and exhale. Restore some movement to your fingertips and toes. You can invite a full body stretch, lifting your arms up overhead. Pointing your toes, lifting your abdomen up towards the ceiling. You can turn your body to the left side, to the right, or to the right, allowing it to remain heavy and relaxed. And once again, be intentional in inviting that generous and leisurely breath. And after another breath or two, start to make your way up to your seat. You've been practicing a lot of awareness and presence throughout the class, and let that be demonstrated in your body. Make those adjustments. And then notice that we have to practice arriving to our bodies, our breath, our experience, to really be and not judge. So in the spirit of that beautiful connection, we'll seal the class in gratitude. Our right hands in front of our heart center, a powerful inhale here, and exhale. And in the tradition of yoga, the highest in me sees the highest in you. Namaste.